Watching Eagle News International. Hello, CJ.
Hello, Alma, and good evening to everyone joining us tonight. Here are the headlines.
I believe that
ASEAN concluded its 38th and 39th summits and related summits with commitments to support post-COVID-19 recovery and regional community building.
The WHO says the COVID-19 pandemic is far from over.
United States policy towards...
And United States de facto ambassador to Taiwan, Sandra Quidkirk, reiterates U.S. commitment to Taiwan's self-defense and stresses U.S. policy towards the island is clear and has not changed.
And Facebook changed its parent company name to Meta on Thursday as the tech giant tries to move past being a scandal-plagued social network to its virtual reality vision for the future.
Still about bringing people.
First, President Duterte is batting for the gradual reopening of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, or ASEAN, borders to trade and tourism as rising vaccination levels gave their governments more confidence in easing restrictions. Take a look. It is also time that we open our borders safely to reinvigorate our trade and tourism sectors, according to President Duterte in a speech during the 16th East Asia Summit held via video conference on October 27. He also emphasized the need to revitalize economic changes within the region through deeper integration. Let us then work swiftly towards the early entry into force of the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement, or RCEP, he said, vowing that the Philippines will do its part and ratify the landmark agreement within the year. RCEP is the trade pact among the member states of ASEAN and the bloc's 5 FTA partners, Australia, New Zealand, China, Japan, and South Korea. The deal was concluded on November 15 last year.
The ASEAN concluded its 38th and 39th summits and related summits on Thursday, October 28, with commitments to support post-COVID-19 recovery and regional community building. Addressing the closing ceremony, Haji Hassan al-Bolkiah, the Sultan of Brunei, which is the ASEAN chair for 2021, said leaders of the 10-country bloc had productive discussions on the current state and future direction of the region, as well as considered ways to further enhance relationships with external partners. Watch this.
I believe that 2021 has been a challenging year for many of us, and we continue to address the impacts from COVID-19, especially with the emergence of new variants. Despite this, ASEAN has continued to make advancement through our collective efforts under the theme of We Care, We Prepare, We Prosper. We have adopted inclusive and cross-pillar strategies to further advance our community building efforts. We have also stepped up our efforts to respond to and recover from COVID-19, which includes the work of procure vaccine for our people. I hand over the chairmanship of ASEAN and the gravel to Prime Minister Hun Sen, who I wish much success. Thank you.
Second, Cambodia will promote effective implementation of all initiatives and measures agreed, as well as leverage trade agreement to the maximum so as to expedite the recoveries of economic growth while we are living with COVID-19 in the new normal.
Meanwhile, Beijing officials on Friday told residents to postpone weddings and keep funeral ceremonies short as disease controls across China were tightened just months before the Winter Olympics kicks off in the capital. The world's most populous nation has reduced infection numbers to a trickle since its initial epidemic last spring, thanks to a zero-tolerance approach of border closures, targeted lockdowns, and long quarantine periods. But China is now grappling with flare-ups in a dozen regions linked to tourists, spurring officials to order millions to stay home, restrict interprovincial travel, and ramp up testing. Case numbers remain far lower than in most countries, with 48 new domestic infections on Friday, bringing the tally to fewer than 250 in the past week. But authorities are not taking any chances with tens of thousands of people in Beijing, which will host the Winter Olympics in February, under lockdown after a handful of cases were detected.
The coronavirus has killed at least 4,979,103 people since the outbreak emerged in China in December 2019, according to an AFP tally from official sources today. Now, the U.S. has suffered the most COVID-related deaths with 743,362, followed by Brazil with 607,068, India with 457,191, Mexico with 287,631, and Russia with 236,220. The countries with the most new deaths were United States with 2,158, followed by Russia with 1,163, and India with 807 or 805. Taking into account excess mortality directly and indirectly linked to COVID-19, the World Health Organization estimates the overall death toll could be 2 to 3 times higher.
At a COVID-19 press briefing, World Health Organization Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus says that the global number of reported cases and deaths from COVID-19 is now increasing for the first time in 2 months, which he attributes to an ongoing rise in Europe, outweighing declines elsewhere. Take a look.
In low-income countries, which is about 300 today.
The global number of reported cases and deaths from COVID-19 is now increasing for the first time in 2 months, driven by an ongoing rise in Europe that outweighs declines in other regions. It's another reminder that the COVID-19 pandemic is far from over. The pandemic persists in large part because inequitable access to tools persists. This weekend, the leaders of the G20 countries will meet in Rome. Together, these countries have the ability to make the political and financial commitments that are needed to end this pandemic and to prevent future crises.
Today, the number of boosters that's being administered around the world, close to 1 million jabs a day, is 3 times the amount of vaccines being administered in low-income countries, which is about 330,000 doses a day. 62 countries have started administering boosters, and more are thinking about it. The WHO had called for a moratorium on boosters till the end of the year, so we could move those vaccine doses to those countries and to those populations that are still below 4 or 5% coverage. Even the frontline workers have not been fully covered. So it is doable, it is possible, and we hope that, again, the G20 leaders will take decisions on how to use existing supplies, how to prioritize them to parts of the world which need them desperately.
So the big question to the G20 this weekend is, are they going to say, here is where that 550 million doses are going to come from, because those 20 countries control the global vaccine supply. And I'm sorry to be as frank as that, but remember, between now and the end of this year, we're going to make another 3 billion doses of vaccine. Can we take 550 million doses of that, about 10 days of production, production and make sure it goes into COVAX and the other mechanisms that can get the equitable distribution, that by the end of this year we'll see more lives saved, more livelihoods on track. And
hospitals around Papua New Guinea are overwhelmed with COVID-19 patients, but authorities there say they prefer fast vaccination rollout than hard lockdown. We have Eco Hortaleza Quinola, our ABC correspondent there in Papua New Guinea, with a story.
In a press conference held in Taurama Aquatic Center, which is also one of the quarantine facilities in Port Moresby, National Capital District Governor Honorable Poes Parkop, along with the senior officials in medical field, spoke to the media about the present situation of the city. The Port Moresby General Hospital and the St. John's Ambulance are both suffering a crisis point that will break down any time unless they receive support in terms of resources, manpower, medical workers and staff, medical supplies, hospital equipment, oxygen, and modern facilities.
I want to thank each and every one of them and their family from the bottom of my heart for all that they are doing to support our people and keep us healthy and importantly overcome this challenge. And the sad reality now is that the health system and all the effort is teetering on collapse. You all have heard it already. They are pressed by manpower, not enough manpower. They are pressed by bed space, all the isolation wards, all the different wards in the Port Moresby General Hospital are already overwhelmed.
Port Moresby General Hospital CEO Dr. Paki Molomi reported the alarming large number of deaths which occurred in just a week. Governor Poes Parkop will not impose lockdown as of this report, though social, public, and big crowd gatherings are still banned.
It's a serious discussion now, but we have not made a decision yet. I'm waiting for the Secretary for Health. I've spoken to some doctors already, our 3 CEOs from the hospital and Taurama Aquatic Center and PHA. They still have not given me their views. If they all say we do it, then we might have to do it, but I hope we don't have to do it because it doesn't work in the past. It doesn't really break in the transmission. So if you're going to do a lockdown, it has to be very precise.
He also pleaded to the public to be vaccinated in order to break the circle of transmission of COVID-19 and Delta variant.
It's about being responsible and doing the right thing. And the right thing is to get our people to adhere to the protocols, but more importantly, to take the vaccine.
The government is advising the people to also stop believing in all misinformation, pseudo-intellectuals, false beliefs, and misconceptions concerning the vaccination. The governor furthermore educates the people that survival will improve if you are vaccinated and caught COVID-19. It will also reduce the need to be hospitalized. At this moment, the entire isolation ward in Port Moresby General Hospital is already in full capacity. Among the other attendees during the press conference were Executive Officer Dr. Albert Newton, City Manager Stephen Yanni, and St. John Ambulance CEO Matt Cannon. The government can only do as much. It's all up to the constituents to do their part. Vaccination centers are everywhere in NCD. COVID-19 is real and it kills. Everyone is encouraged to make a wise decision. Reporting from Port Moresby, Papua New Guinea, this is Eco Hortaleza Quinola, Eagle News. We live in interesting times.
As world leaders head to Europe for the G20 summit, President of the European Commission Ursula von der Leyen said advanced nations have a special responsibility to tackle climate change. Take a look.
We need leadership for credible commitments for decarbonization to reach the goal of net zero mid-century, but we also need sufficient commitments to really cut the emissions this decade. Science is very clear on that. Science tells us it's urgent. We are not on track right now. The third topic that we will discuss at G20 with a lot of emphasis will be climate change. As I said, we have the 20 most advanced economies around the table. These 20 largest economies also represent 80% of the emissions worldwide, and therefore we have a special responsibility. Europe is on track to become the first climate neutral continent in the world by 2050. We have a new number that shows something interesting because we have already reduced our emissions by more than 31% compared to 1990, while growing our economy by 60%. And I think this is an encouraging message that shows you can cut emissions and prosper.
In the heyday of the Igedi Spa in the 1960s, holiday makers could marinate in heated pools and then slip into the Dead Sea. Now the same beach is punctured by craters. A spectacular expanse of water in the desert, flanked by cliffs to east and west, the Dead Sea has lost a third of its surface area since 1960. Watch this.
Dead Sea has a character, it has a personality, and I feel like that personality is dying. And it's horrible to watch something that you've grown up with disappearing. And that's exactly what's happening here. It's disappearing, and it's slow.
Because it's really dangerous because of the sinkhole and because of the sand is really, you can sink it. But as a kid, we used to go to the spa next to the sea. There's no sea, there's no next. It's like 3 kilometers from here.
It's very easy to say that nature is now saying enough is enough, we're going to take it back, of course. But that would be okay if it was really nature. Man has interfered, and that part of it at least we have to take care of. We have to, excuse me saying it very brutally, we have to be ashamed of ourselves that we've allowed this to happen.
Meanwhile, rising temperatures are increasingly threatening workers in the U.S., endangering their health as well as their performance and income. Take a look.
Yeah, the most difficult thing in my job is the sun. The condition we work is really hot, but we don't have another choice.
Staying hydrated every chance you get, every moment you can. Step into the office, have a bottle of water, just chug it down. You know, you got to do it. Sunscreen in the morning. It's always a good thing to start off with.
¿Cuántos años tienes trabajando aquí?
Muchos, como 6, 7.
Pues afecta porque, pues para la familia, porque si gano poco, pues no arriesgo. Y como soy mamá soltera, pues sí. Aunque este año no ha sido como otros años, es mejor que hoy, que este año.
And the news continues here on Eagle News. We'll be right back.
This portion is brought to you by North Luzon Express Terminal.
Makabuluhang talakayan.
Sapat na po ba yun? Papasok yung 30% sa indoor, 50% sa outdoor, para to even break even?
Ilan pong mga negosyo ang nagsara po dahil dito po sa pandemya?
Malalim na komentaryo.
Ngayon, sinasabi essential goods and services. Pero nakita naman po natin sa Dolomite Beach. At may time clock yung mga bata doon.
Umaapaw sa impormasyon.
Ano ba ngayon ang allotted budget per voter?
Yung hindi daw bakunado po ng mga empleyado, hindi sila pinapasweldo. Oras!
Pero hindi rin nagpapahuli sa kakulitan.
Merong nag-file for the presidency. Hinimok daw siya ng mga alien at ang kanyang plataforma po ay palakasin ang Wi-Fi.
At ito si Ali magde-demonstrate paano mag-swimming na may face mask.
Kaya, nood na kina Ali Soto at Pati Daza sa ASPN. Ano sa palagay nyo?
Kung kayo po ay may pinagdadaanan, daanan nyo lang. Huwag yung tambayan.
Lunes hanggang Biyernes, alas 8 hanggang alas 10 ng umaga.
Oras, alas 9:26 na po ng umaga at nagbabalik po ang ASPN.
Mapapanood sa Net25 at mapapakinggan sa DZEC, Radyo Aguila at Eagle FM 95.5.
Mula noon hanggang ngayon, gabay natin ang MTRCB ratings sa matalino at responsableng panonood. Sa tamang pagsunod sa MTRCB ratings, ginagawa nating ligtas at makabuluhan ang panonood ng bawat miyembro ng pamilyang Pilipino. Lumipas man ang panahon, hanggang may pamilyang Pilipino, andyan ang MTRCB.
Let's go! Samut-saring mga videos ang ating nakikita. Iba't ibang eksena, lalo na sa social media. May nakakalokang video, may nakakatawang video, may nakakamanghang video. Sa finest na kaboy video, may nakakaaliw na video, may pang-asar na video, may trending at viral video. Sa finest na kaboy video. Finest na kaboy video.
President Tsai Ing-wen has confirmed a small number of U.S. troops are present in Taiwan to help with training, adding she had faith that the American military would defend the island in the event of a Chinese attack. United States de facto ambassador to Taiwan, Sandra Udkirk, reiterates U.S. commitment to Taiwan's self-defense and stresses U.S. policy towards the island is clear and has not changed. The remarks sparked a strident, albeit a familiar rebuke on Thursday from China, which accused the U.S. of trying to stir up trouble and that it firmly opposes any official or military contacts between Taipei and Washington. Watch this.
The United States policy towards Taiwan is clear. It has not changed. It is rooted in the Taiwan Relations Act, the 3 communiques and the 6 assurances. And we believe it has contributed to stability and security, not just across the Taiwan Straits, but throughout the Indo-Pacific over the past several decades. We continue to have a shared and abiding interest in peace and stability across the Taiwan Strait. The U.S. considers this central to the security and stability of the broader Indo-Pacific region and to the United States. And we are deeply concerned by ongoing PRC efforts to undermine that stability. Our commitment to Taiwan is rock solid and contributes to the maintenance of peace and stability across the Taiwan Strait and within the region. The United States has a commitment to help Taiwan provide for itself self-defense. And that's part of the Taiwan Relations Act. It's a commitment we take very seriously. We engage with our partners in Taiwan, on a routine basis to assess vulnerabilities, to assess ways we can support Taiwan.
一个中国原则是中美关系的政治基础。在台湾问题上，美方应该恪守一个中国原则和中美3个联合公报规定，而不是自己单方面炮制的什么东西。是谁在台湾问题上搞胁迫，国际社会看得很清楚。两岸统一是历史大势，是正道；台独是历史逆流，是绝路。民进党当局的谋独行径，丝毫改变不了台湾是中国一部分的铁的事实，也撼动不了国际社会普遍认可一个中国原则的稳固格局。
In an interview with CNN, Chai described Taiwan as a regional beacon of democracy that is facing down a giant authoritarian neighbor as the threat from Beijing grew every day. The presence of U.S. troops was first confirmed to AFP and other media by a Pentagon official earlier this month. Chai's comments are the first time a Taiwanese leader has publicly made such an admission since the last U.S. garrison left in 1979, when Washington switched diplomatic recognition to Beijing. China is regularly setting records with its numerous warplane flights near the island. At the East Asia Summit attended by Chinese Premier Li Keqiang, Biden said the United States was deeply concerned by China's coercive and proactive actions across the Taiwan Strait.
In other news, Myanmar's military sentenced a close aide of ousted civilian leader Aung San Suu Kyi to 20 years in prison on Friday, his lawyer said, the first high-ranking member of her party to be jailed by a junta court. Take a look. Former Member of Parliament and NLD Speaker Win Tain was handed 20 years in jail for treason by a special court in the capital, Naypyidaw, according to lawyer Mien Twin. He added that he would appeal the sentence and that his client was in good health. Win Tain, 80, is the first high-ranking NLD member to be sentenced by the junta after a trial. The former soldier is a long-time political prisoner who has spent long stretches of time in detention for campaigning against military rule. Considered Suu Kyi's right hand, he was long been sought out by international and domestic media for insights into what Myanmar's former de facto leader is thinking. The wheelchair-bound politician requires oxygen to help him breathe, according to local media, and suffers from hypertension, diabetes, and heart and thyroid diseases.
Facebook changed its parent company name to Meta on Thursday as the tech giant tries to move past being scandal-plagued social network to its virtual reality vision for the future. The new handle comes as the company battles to fend off one of its worst crises yet and pivot to its ambitions for the metaverse, which would blur the lines between the physical world and the digital one. A brand and marketing analyst based in California says Facebook's rebrand is not a meaningful change.
To reflect who we are and what we hope to build, I am proud to announce that starting today, our company is now Meta. Our mission remains the same. It's still about bringing people together. Our apps and their brands, they're not changing either. And we are still the company that designs technology around people.
What they did was really unwise because, first of all, when you use a corporate brand name change to change perceptions, people have expectations. They expect you're really doing something about the brand crisis. They expect you have new programs, new leadership, new culture, and so forth to make some meaningful change. And of course, there is no meaningful change. And so I think because of those expectations, people will be disappointed and maybe even ridicule the change because they'll sense that that was an effort to change the conversation and it did not address the real issues. The metaverse might be a new direction. It might be a change in conversation. That could be true, but you don't have to change the corporate name to get there. You can just be a thought leader, a market leader in that area, you know.
The social media giant has been battling one of its most serious crises ever since former employee Frances Haugen leaked reams of internal studies showing executives knew of their site's potential for harm, prompting a renewed U.S. push for regulation. Facebook has just announced plans to hire 10,000 people in the European Union to build the metaverse, with Zuckerberg emerging as a leading promoter of the concept. The metaverse is, in fact, the stuff of science fiction. The term was coined by Neil Stephenson in his 1992 novel Snow Crash, in which people don virtual reality headsets to interact inside a game-like digital world.
To change.
Okay, so in New Jersey, the Union County has collected more than 500 unwanted guns in a buyback amnesty event. We have El Aguilar for the details in New Jersey. El?
Thank you. Thanks very much, Mr. Prosecutor, for such a successful buyback program. I believe it was the most successful program in the state of New Jersey.
Over 500 weapons and firearms have been collected by the authorities in Union County in just one day through its annual Guns for Cash or Gun Amnesty Buyback program here in New Jersey.
These commissioners, everyone up here, pulled off a tremendously successful gun buyback program here in Union County this past Saturday. The results were beyond our wildest expectations, and we're very, very happy. And there's a lot of people up here, but there are another 50 who are part of this team who are on the ground doing all the work.
The gun buyback program is a collaboration between the state, county, and local organizations calling on residents to turn in weapons in their possession, weapons that they don't need regardless of its condition. According to Prosecutor William Daniel, the goal is to keep communities safe. The program also aims to prevent unwanted weapons to fall into the hands of wrong people, which may result in the loss of lives. For those who will come forward and participate in this Guns for Cash program, officials made sure that their identities will remain anonymous and there will be no questions asked. As a result of this one-day program, over 500 weapons, including assault weapons, rifles,
Each surrendered firearm displayed on the table here in front of us represents a potential tragedy avoided. Surrendering these guns has prevented them from potentially contributing to a suicide, a fatal shooting, an accidental discharge by a child or unsuspecting family member, or their use in the commission of a crime. Removing these unwanted firearms from our communities has helped prevent these types of tragic events from happening.
For those who will come forward and participate in this Guns for Cash program, officials made sure that their identities will remain anonymous and there will be no questions asked. As a result of this one-day program, over 500 weapons, including assault weapons, rifles, shotguns, BB pellet guns, and even the deadly weapons have been surrendered to the authorities.
Now, today I'm pleased to announce that Saturday's gun buyback events in the cities of Elizabeth, Westfield, and Plainfield, right here in Union County, resulted in the surrender of more than 520 firearms, some of which are stolen, or suspected to be stolen, some of which, at least 6 of which, are categorized as assault firearms. You can see there are many rifles here, shotguns, pistols of all shapes and sizes. You name it is here. They came from every area of this county and from beyond, whether it be from down to Port Elizabeth, the West End, and Plainfield, Summit, Westfield. These guns, they came from every corner of the county and beyond. People drove in from counties around the state. There were some of the things that were turned in you don't see here. People came in with bags of ammunition.
Each surrendered weapon has an equivalent value ranging from $25 to $250 per gun or firearm. Union County released over $90,000 in exchange for weapons. The funds came from what they call forfeiture funds. This is the money seized or taken away by the police from arrested individuals found to be involved in illegal or criminal activity. According to Commissioner Alexander Mirabella, even though New Jersey is one of the states with stricter gun ownership laws in the nation, it is not unusual for people to come and turn in their unlicensed or unwanted gun. This could be a result of an inheritance, a gift, or a hobby.
Every individual had their own personal reason for wanting to get rid of their firearms and the ammunition, but the commonality among all is that they chose to responsibly surrender these weapons and ammunition, ensuring that they would be disposed of properly.
We hope this event raises the awareness about the importance of getting unwanted guns off the streets in our neighborhoods for everyone's safety.
This gun amnesty buyback program is effective and said to be the safest way for the owners to dispose their unwanted weapons. From Union Township, El Aguilar for Eagle News. We live in interesting times.
Thank you, Elle. And before we go, CJ, I would like to invite everyone to watch our worldwide Hingap sa Mamamayan special telecast on Net25 and INC TV. This will start at 10 in the morning until 8 in the evening on October 31st, Sunday. This will be aired on all social media platforms and channels of Net25 and INC TV. So on that day, please watch. There will be hourly updates from our different bureaus around the world. Worldwide Hingap sa Mamamayan special telecast on Net25 and INC TV. Catch us there at 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Sunday, October 31st. So watch out for that.
Yeah, do watch out for that. There you go. And that's it for tonight's broadcast. Thank you so much for joining us. The news continues tomorrow. I am CJ Hero.
And at the end of the day, there remains so much more to be grateful for. We'll see you back tomorrow. I'm Alma Angeles, and
we live
in interesting times.